Hey, how are all you wonderful people doing out there? Sorry it's been a little while. I'm getting there with all this. I made a video giving an update kind of where I am with things, and it's just like right there. All these pieces are coming together, and they're going to come together really good here in a bit because I bought some stuff on Amazon, and watch it to learn all about it. I'll post that video first, this one second. And with this video, I wanted to talk about just a whole slew of things because I'm always watching stuff, and it's like people are so stupid whenever it comes to villains and heroes and movies and all this stuff, and they'll say stupid stuff. It's like, oh, well, I could save Sauron or the Joker or Thanos or whatever. It's like, you're an idiot. You have absolutely no idea what it is that you're talking about. Whenever they're doing these kind of movies that are really impactful and powerful, it has absolutely nothing to do with the characters themselves. It has to do with the characteristics and the values that they hold. So, for example, with Batman, with the Joker's never going to be reformed because the Joker does not represent real life. There is nobody out there like the Joker going around doing these horrible things, but there are people out there who have these kinds of mindsets. And so the Joker and Batman, that is chaos and order. That is somebody who's going around killing and somebody who will not kill. That's why that these characters do these things or don't do these things. Neither of these characters are real. Neither one of them. But they represent these ideas behind them. And they just blast it all over these movies. And so here's a little clip because I like watching reaction movies and stuff. And so here's a little kind of where they're throwing it in your face.
I just don't know. Like, she just drives me crazy.
Ignore her.
Would you have me do? Endure. Master Wayne.
I'm stressed out. I'm like,
You can make the choice, but no one else can make
Here it is.
the right choice.
right.
And that's what they're talking about. What choice are you going to make? Because the Joker goes around and he kills people. And they show all these different aspects of him killing, of how stressed you are whenever they're coming to kill you, and what tension that brings to everyone. All of these people have families. Every single person. They have parents, brothers, sisters, kids, or whatever. And so whenever you kill someone, even whenever they're a villain, it's not just villains, but it's also good guys. And so right here, if you can see, there's Barbara Gordon because Jim Gordon just got killed.
Why? I'm not crying for you. Cry forward.
Switch it off. He ain't coming.
And it's also the same thing of how horrifying it is whenever he kills Brian, which is... So here it is where he kills Brian, and he's already been killed, and then it shows the video right before he gets tortured to death.
What the?
Which is the story. Follow me along. Are you going to get Batman? No. Why do you dress up like him?
And again, you know what? They're talking about, well, why are you doing this? They're talking about the actions and the choices that people make, and it just drives me up the wall. And people just don't get this. And so now we're going to jump over to Jordan Peterson and a reaction video that I saw. So let me get to that. So I like watching all kind of reaction videos to movies, especially like superhero movies, because I like that there are some situations where it will drive the entire audience to tears. You want to see a really great example of that? Get on YouTube and search for theater reactions to the Avengers Endgame movie where Tony Stark dies. They're all over the place. And you will see where people snuck in their cell phones. They recorded the movie and the audience reaction. And consistently, no matter where they're recording from, when Tony Stark, they find out that he is going to die, the whole audience is just crying. Another one is with Infinity Wars, where Thor gets his new hammer / axe, and he jumps into the air, and he's just covered in lightning. The whole crowd, no matter where it's at, oh, you know, and it's just... it's interesting to see those patterns reoccur, and it's like, okay, well, why that's happening? What's going on? Is that something that could be kind of duplicated in real life in some way that you could use to help and motivate people? I get into all kinds of things. But here is Jordan Peterson talking about how your actions and your choices matter, and that it's not this simple little platitude of stupid little words, that there's consequences in what it is that you do, which is why you need to put in the due diligence, the time and the thought and the research into understanding what's really behind these things. So he's going to break it down in this, and we're going to watch these people react to it a little bit. And these people, they're pretty entertaining. They're a fun couple. They're really getting into it. I've been watching a little bit of them lately, and they're a lot of fun to watch. This is called Half and Jay Reacts to Jordan Peterson's Gender Pay Gap Continues. So this is, they watched like the first 30 minutes, and there was still like another 17 minutes left of it. It's relatively new. This is from the YouTube channel Half and Jay, and I'll have a link in the description below for this video. So if you want to watch it in its entirety, you can. But let's see what this has.
Transphobic, but that isn't what I said.
Well, except you've also called trans campaigners authoritarian, haven't you? I mean, isn't that
Well, only in the broader context of my claims that radical leftist ideologues are authoritarian, which they are.
I'm saying someone who's trying to work out their gender identity, who may well have struggled with that, had quite a tough time over years.
Yeah.
You're comparing them with, Chairman Mao, who
just
saw the deaths of millions of people. Well, even if the activists, they're trans.
And if you haven't watched this, man, this lady is just idiotic. She puts words into his mouth. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's just regurgitating a bunch of buzzwords, novelizing all of this stuff without having one iota of a clue about the words that she's spouting off with this. And that's why he just totally decimates her throughout this entire conversation.
People too, they have a right to say these things.
Yeah, but they don't have a right to speak for their whole community.
Compare them to Chairman Mao. Pinochet, Augusto Pinochet.
And so this is it. Listen to what he says about the communists with Russia and with China and Mao and the activists and what he's saying with that.
This is grossly insensitive.
No, I didn't compare them to Pinochet.
Well,
I did compare them to
authoritarian.
He's a right winger, though. I was comparing them to the left wing totalitarians. And I do believe they are left wing totalitarians.
Under Mao, millions of people died.
Right.
I mean, there's no comparison between Mao and a trans activist, is there?
Why not?
Because trans activists aren't killing millions of people?
The philosophy that's guiding their utterances is the same philosophy.
And this is what they talk about with the really good stories and movies that they have. This is what makes it good. It's because it's not about redeeming a damn person. So sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. With some of these heroes' journeys, there's a redemption element to it. But what they're struggling against, that there's no redemption for the struggling of whatever's evil, so like Emperor Palpatine or Thanos or whatever. They're never meant to be redeemed. That's not it at all. It's meant to take a look at your actions. Here's one set of actions and beliefs, and here's the effect that it's having on the world and your surroundings. And here's another, the opposing set of beliefs and actions and its effect on the people and the world around everyone. And it's the same thing with this. And these people are just so short-sighted and simple resolution that they don't see the bigger picture. And it's because, I don't know, because they just swallowed this up so wholly and completely that they're just too stupid to understand. I don't know what it is. I'm sure it's a whole bunch of things because like everything, it's all complicated. Because if it wasn't complicated, if it was simple and easy, then we would have a solution for it. So why do you think all of a sudden that you're going to be able to come up with this? And that's exactly what all these crazy leftist psychopaths think on the left. Well, this is the answer. It's like, no, it's not. You think nobody's ever thought of that before? And so, yeah, anyways.
The consequences are...
Not yet.
You're saying that trans activists could lead to the deaths of millions of people.
No, I'm saying that the philosophy that drives their utterances is the same philosophy that already has driven us to the deaths of millions.
Okay, tell us how that philosophy is
Students with ADHD save 10
I
hours.
like this. It's like he's having to deal with pop-up ads. It's like, yeah, me too. It just happens.
Is it any way comparable?
Sure, that's no problem. The first thing is that the philosophy presumes that group identity is paramount. That's the fundamental philosophy that drove the Soviet Union and Maoist China. And it's the fundamental philosophy of the left-wing activists. It's identity politics. It doesn't matter who you are as an individual. It matters who you are in terms of your group identity.
You just
That's
say,
murder.
And that's wrong because your group identity doesn't mean a damn thing. And so the group identities that we hear all the time is feminist, sexist, racist, all this stuff. Characteristics that you have absolutely no control over whatsoever. Just because you're a woman, just because you're straight or gay, black or white, man or woman, that does not automatically make any single person good or bad at all whatsoever. What matters are the individual choices that you make. And that's why these hero stories or these really good movies that are out there, that's why people can resonate with them so well, because you have the ability to put yourself in those positions. To put yourself in the position of the Joker. To put yourself in the position of Batman. Because it has absolutely nothing to do with these people being gay or straight or man or woman or any of that crap. It's their decisions. The Joker's killing people. Batman doesn't. The Joker lives in chaos. Batman lives in order. Batman's got rules. The Joker doesn't. Holy crap. Rewatch it. And put yourself in that situation where screw changing the Joker or Batman and look at the effects that it's having on all of these people around them. From all the people who get killed and all the villains and how they react to all these heinous things and all the good people and how they act to the heinous things and all the good things that are being done and how the bad people react to the good things as well and how the good people react to good things. And ask yourself, which world do you want to live in? Do you want to live in the world where people are just killing and dying and crying and just all this suffering, or where there's accountability for it and you just can't go off and do blindly whatever the hell it is that you want to do? You know, and so one of the examples that I give is that we live by some orders and some rules and regulations whenever we go driving. And that's why we don't have mass destruction going on whenever we go driving, because what is it really? You are in this big, massive machine that's of glass, plastic, and steel, traveling at high rates of speed, surrounded by complete strangers. And we do this with pretty good confidence that we're not going to get killed. But it still happens. There's drunk drivers, people who fall asleep. Really bad things can happen. And if something just out of the ordinary happens, and you happen to do that next to a cop, you know, if you're swerving back and forth a little bit, a cop's going to pull you over. And the first two things that are going to come out of that cop's mouth is, are you drunk? Are you tired? Because that's the first thing that comes to people's minds whenever they see it. If you do it, man, you do it long enough, there's going to be somebody that's going to call the cops up and be like, I think this person's drunk. I think this person's asleep. They're about to fall asleep. They're just all over the place. And they're absolutely right for doing so. Anyways.
So to provoke, aren't you? I mean, you are a provocateur.
I never said
You're like
anything.
the alt-right that you hate to be compared to. You want to stir things up.
I'm only a provocateur insofar as...
But he talks, and you can find more about where he talks about where this group identity thing is so utterly stupid. It means you have no accountability. It means that because you are a woman or you're black or gay or trans or whatever, you can do whatever you want to. You can be a pedophile, murdering psychopath. And so what do I mean by that? It's like, this is what happens today. And so an example of this in real life is that today I saw on, this is the Rubin Report. It has Dave Rubin. The title of this video is Uncensored Clip of Will Smith Oscars Fight and Leftists Justifying It, Direct Message, Rubin Report. And about 24 minutes into it, he starts talking about in Florida, Governor DeSantis and their state, they're pushing this bill through about how you cannot indoctrinate children into all of this group identitarian stuff and push all this sex nonsense. And the left just lie out of their teeth saying, well, it's an anti-gay bill. It's like, it is absolutely not that. That is 100% an utter lie. And there's plenty of people out there who have been doing videos about it and covering all of it. But whenever you're a part of this insane, psychotic left, you can just do whatever you want to because you're in the right groups, not because it has nothing to do with you being a good person. Not at all. So let's listen to this.
Apparently there's porn in schools now. Well, not here in Clark.
Unfortunately, we've seen some books in some of these libraries. I mean, you're talking about kids in middle school. Some of the stuff that has ended up there, incredibly disturbing stuff. You have some groups that want to take away classic books like To Kill a Mockingbird, but they want things like Gender Queer, a memoir, which is a cartoon-style book with graphic images of children performing sexual acts. That is wrong. That has no place in the schools. They want to eliminate Of Mice and Men, but Lawn Boy, a book containing explicit passages of pedophilia, is somehow accepted as being okay. Parents want education for their kids. They're not interested in indoctrination through the school system. And that's where...
You know why? Because this is exactly what Jordan Peterson was talking about, is that if you're in the right group and you're doing what they like, then there's no wrong that you can do. And it's like, this is absolutely wrong. You know why? Because children are stupid. They are utterly dumb. Now, technically, they're ignorant. And it reflects on that phrase, that time-old passage of ignorance is bliss. Somewhere in the world, there's something horrible going on right now at this very moment, no matter what time you're watching this video. If it's 5 minutes from after I post it to 5 years from now, somewhere in the world, something horrible's going on, but you're ignorant to it. So you're blissful about it because you just don't know. But if you did know, it's like, yeah, that would be horrible and it would make you feel bad that some evil, disgusting thing is going on. And that's the way children are all. They are ignorantly, beyond comprehension on how ignorant they are. And that's why we all look back at our childhood as being, oh, those were such better days. It's like, no, they weren't. There were bad things going on then too. It's like that there's been no period in time where the world has been in peace and the stars were aligned in perfect harmony. That's never happened. There has been violence going on since the beginning of time. All around the world, that has been going on. Murder, rape, theft, all of it has been going on constantly, nonstop. You just weren't aware of it. All of us, because that's what it is. And this is why children don't do anything. This is why they're at home with their parents, because the world is complicated and it's scary and there's so much that you have to learn before you can do anything. It's why kids don't vote. It's why they don't get involved in sexual relationships. It's why they don't drive cars. It's why they don't handle money. It's why they get in trouble all the time with their parents. They will be violent towards their own brothers and sisters. They'll come up and they'll smack them and stuff. And part of the reason why is because they don't have the vocabulary to be able to express themselves properly, to be able to convey what it is that they're dealing with, to be able to get the other people in their lives, to be able to help them or to back off or whatever it is that they need to do. But they still have these emotions and feelings, and it's like they need it to stop. And so they're resorted to doing the only thing that they know how to do, and that is to hit the other kid, or to just steal the cookie or whatever it is, because they don't understand the complexities about it. It's like, no, it's not just a cookie. That's a bunch of sugars and carbs that's going to lead to diabetes and heart problems, and that whenever you build a strong enough bad habit to it, then it becomes hard to undo it in the opposite way. And that's why we have books like this one that I'll be reading here shortly, The Atomic Habits by James Clear, or... or The 12 Rules of Life from Jordan Peterson, The Power of Habit by Charles Dougie, whatever his name is, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, because it's complicated. You know why? Because the habits that highly effective people have are different from people who, well, cultures. People who live in poverty have a different set of habits. They have different things that they do in their daily lives. And that's why I'm doing all this with setting out, with scheduling my life and figuring out what it is that I want to do, and then putting goals in place to accomplish that, and breaking those goals down from what I want accomplished in a year to 6 months, 3 months, monthly, weekly, and daily. And it's like, why? Because people do this. This just didn't fall out of the sky. It's because people put this together and they do it. And you can find videos of people who are like, yes, I do this stuff and I love it. And they'll open it up and it's just got crap all over it. They're just not singing zippity doo-dah. They're just bam, 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 bam. They're going at it. And I feel the pressure now as I've gotten older in my life, because my body is just not nearly the same as it was 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's like, it's just, and it's like the last 10 years or so of my life, or maybe 20 years, depending on how long I live, I'm not going to be able to do anything like I am even right now. It's like, I am at the best that I'm going to be right now, and it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse, because your body gets older, not younger. And so I just feel this of like, I better do this. And this is part of the reason why women are more mature than men, because they have an expiration date stamped on their forehead. And that's every time they get a little wrinkle or crow's foot or whatever, it dates them and it ages them, because they have a time frame as to how long they can have children. Because they can't have children whenever they're 10. They haven't hit puberty. They can't do it. And even whenever they start having puberty, whenever really young girls have children, they have problems galore, because their bodies are still developing, and it's just horrific whenever a little child gets pregnant like that, whenever a little girl gets pregnant like that, because her body can't do it at all. Just because they're starting into puberty and their thing is happening, that doesn't mean that it's fully developed yet. It's just begun to develop. It hasn't finished yet. So, for example, maybe this is one that you know, is that your bones are constantly growing and they don't solidify until somewhere into your early 20s, between 21 to 24 years of age. And that's whenever your bones will calcify and solidify, and they become much more stronger and rigid. And that's why before that time, if you're a guy, for example, and you want to lift really heavy, you have to be aware of that, because if you lift too much, your bones are more brittle and more likely to break. So you have to wait until that occurs before you can really get into it, or you risk that. And it's the same thing with a girl. It's like, just because she's begun the developmental process, that doesn't mean that it's at a state where that can happen yet. And then that ends roughly about by the time that they're in their 40s. It's like she's hit 40, it's done. You don't see that. And they do this problem of where they want to find this weird freak outlier somewhere who's like, oh, I know a girl that got pregnant in her 40s. No, you didn't. No, you absolutely didn't. Nobody speaks like that at all. You are playing games. You're a liar. Because whenever people talk in these ways, they're talking about generally, statistically, that this is what happens with the average person, that the average woman will not have children after 40. It doesn't happen at all. I don't give a damn about some stupid lying freak that you found out there. It means absolutely nothing. You need to think of it like this. Whenever people go out and they play the lottery, are you going to win? It's like, no, you're not. You're not going to win the lottery. That's the odds are of all these other things out there. But they happen. It's like somebody wins the lottery. It's like, yes, some 70-year-old lady out there has probably been pregnant. Is that going to happen to any of the women that you know? No, it's not. And it's the same thing with like COVIDs. It's like, oh, all these people are dying from COVIDs. No, they're not. I heard story after story. There was like one of the more recent ones where there was some kid in Canada where he was like 13 or something, really young. And they said, this is the youngest case of COVID that's been claimed here in Canada. And on Twitter, the family got on and said, BS. He had fourth degree cancer or stage 4 cancer. That's what killed him. It's just right there at the end. Also had COVID. COVIDs is not what killed him. It was cancer, because they lied. And so it's like, yeah, screw all this stuff. It's all a lie. And I get so sick and tired of watching this. Every single time I watch something that deals with these insane lying lunatics, it's like, I just wasted my time. I wasted more of my life. There are so many more better productive things that I could be doing than watching another damn lie being shoved down my throat again. It's like I want to hold every last one of them accountable. And so now we're going to move on to the first half of this video, and I'm going to go over some of the questions that they had, and I'm going to clear up some of this confusion, and also with the interview between Jordan Peterson and Kathy Newman. All right, so this is that same couple from just a moment ago. Their YouTube channel again is Half NJ. And this video is titled, "This Didn't Go Well, Jordan Peterson, the Gender Pay Gap Reaction." So this is the first one. So I played them in reverse order. The first one that I showed was actually part 2, and this is part 1 right here. But for what I was doing, that was the wrong order to do. And so now they're going to watch it, and it just starts off wrong.
Let me put a quote to you from the book, where you say there are whole disciplines in universities forthrightly hostile towards men. These are the areas of study dominated by the postmodern stroke neo-Marxist claim that Western culture in particular is an oppressive structure created by white men to dominate and exclude women. But then I want to put
Minorities too.
Okay, that's all wrong. Everything she said is wrong. It is not. It's not a structure built by anyone. It is based off of necessity and competence. And it's because today, I went to the convenience store, I got a little energy drink, I threw it away already because it's got 0 calories to it, and I'm getting over to keto, and it's like I'm not getting my coffee because I don't like coffee just black. I put some creamer in it, and it's like, I just can't do it black. Drink that thing instead, and that's why I'm kind of hyper right now. And there was a girl who was in there who was talking to the cashier while I was there, and she was getting upset because some older guy came up and talked to her. And whenever she walked out, I voiced my opinion to everybody that was still right there, and I should have done it while she was still there. Because it was like, you're an idiot. You expect guys to be able to read your mind and understand what it is that you like or don't like? But after she left out, this is what I said to everyone else. I said that, and I said, this is ridiculous. That stupid child thinks that her lifespan constitutes all of reality. Because she was like in her 20s like that. It's like, I'm old enough to be her father. And I would have just destroyed that stupid little psychopath. Because it's like, yeah, you know what? By the time you were 10, the internet and cell phones were all over the place. But you know what? Whenever I was in junior high, high school, college, I didn't have my first cell phone until I was in my 30s, and that was a flip phone. And you know what you had to do before then if you wanted to meet somebody? If guys or girls wanted to meet somebody, you had to go up and talk to them. There was no internet whenever I was growing up. There were no cell phones. You go and you ask your mother, you stupid little child, what websites did she use? What dating sites did she use? How long did she wait before she texted someone to start going on dates with them? There's only one answer to that. One answer and one answer only. And that is none, because it didn't exist. You know what? With me and everyone who's my age or older, it did not exist. My parents, my grandparents, and everyone that was their age, they all got married before this stuff was around. And the only thing you could do was you took your stupid dumbass up to people and you struck up a conversation. Struck up a conversation. You said, hey, you seem like someone who's like me. You dress in a way that's familiar, that's attractive to me. Your appearance, the way that you're holding yourself, you know, your stature and all this stuff. And so, are you interested? And guess what? You're going to get all kinds of people. You're going to get people who are interested in lust, people who are interested in love, people who are interested in one-night hookups, people who are interested in marriage. You're going to get them all across the board. You know why? Because you can't read minds. And it just drove me up the wall with all this. I'm going to get some water. And that's what all these people do. Is that they addressed all these issues as if they just occurred. It's like, no, what are you, stupid? It's like the reason why men worked their butts off was because they had to, and they still have to today. It's like men go out there and they do all these highly dangerous jobs because women cannot do them. It's like I have friends who work out in the oil fields and they are incredibly hard, laborious jobs. Let's take a look at this because I'm from Texas and they have oil all over in Texas and Oklahoma. This is what these guys look like. They're dirty. They're covered in gear. They're lifting all these pipes and chains. They've got oil sprayed all over them. These are not small guys. And they are drilling these wells with big, heavy pieces of equipment under hundreds of pounds of pressure. And whenever some of that stuff snaps, it will tear them in half and kill them instantly. And they have stories about people who die. And they live out there because these oil fields, they're not in the middle of a city. They're out there in the middle of somebody's property. So you can see out there, there's nothing out there. There's crops out there. It looks like they've got corn or wheat somewhere back there in the background. And they're all dirty and nasty. And you know what this means? This means that children cannot do this job. Women cannot do this job. Senior citizens cannot do this job. This means that sick men cannot do this job. Weak men cannot do this job. Broken men cannot do this job. It has to be young, healthy men. So what does that mean? This means that your pool that you can choose from to hire from is small. So they have to entice these people to come out there and do this. So I've had plenty of friends that go out there and they work in these oil fields and they will go out there and they will work for 3 weeks and they will be home for 1 week and they live out there. So not only is this physically taxing, it's their social life gets utterly wrecked. Because they're there. They're out there on oil rigs or they're out there in the middle of the field somewhere and they're living in some kind of hotel in some small little town somewhere and they're just busting butts. It's like this with electricians, carpenters. Here are telephone pole workers where they have to climb up and down these things. And you know who really gets jacked? The people who have to put these damn things up. I was working for DirecTV at one time, and I went out there to some RV camp because they put up the telephone poles in the area, and they get all placed up, and then they have to move their RVs up to the next location to put up the next ones. And I tell you what, that guy was just solid. He didn't work out. It's because he was lifting all of this heavy equipment to be able to put these damn things in. Laying bricks, messing with concrete and building buildings made out of steel, cement, wrought iron, all this stuff. Women, children, senior citizens can't do it. And so all of these jobs that require blood, sweat, and tears, it requires men. So they get offered a ton of incentives and pay to be able to go out and do this stuff. But if you're working in some kind of office, who can do that stuff? And it starts off with like fast food, any kind of minimum wage job. You know who can do that? High school kids. You know, so a convenience store. You know what? This stupid crap of you should be able to earn a living wage. F you, man. Screw you. No, you don't. You're doing a child's job. Well, why do you think you need to get paid for doing nothing? You stand there in a building that has 4 walls to protect you from the wind, with a roof to protect you from the sun and the blaring heat and the snow and the rain, with air conditioning and heating, with bathroom and plumbing, electricity, with machines that do so much of the work for you. You don't even have to do math because the machines do it for you. All this stuff gets worked out. There's a reason why you get paid trash, because you do a stupid job that children in school can do. Why do you think you deserve a minimum wage for that? You don't deserve a damn thing. It's like you're lucky to get what you get. And if you want more money for it, then you better move yourself up the ladder. You better take a supervisory position. You want to get paid for doing nothing? Get the hell out of here. It's pathetic and it's a lie. And so it's like, this is with this too. It's like there's no gender pay gap. There is a difference between what men and women can do. Every single man who's ever competed in the Olympics and sports, you're not going to tell me that all these women underperformed. It's like, no. And so this entire conversation is wrong from the get-go. It has nothing to do with men or women setting up hierarchies or structures. because it's set by nature, by what you're physically capable of doing. Women were incapable of going to the fields and doing farm work before they had tractors and combines that did all this stuff for them. You had to manually, physically go out there with oxen and old farm work. You had to go out and you had to do all this stuff by hand before they had vehicles where it was horse and oxen, and you just did all this stuff. And even the women did some of this stuff. You know why? Because it was insanely hard. And you know what? These are kids. Look at the man back here and these children who come up to his waist. There were no schools. These kids did not go to high school. They did not exist. This is what my grandmother did. This was her time. My grandmother was born in 1919, and she said whenever she was a kid, she remembered they were still riding around on horses. There was no high school for them. Kids worked. There was no such thing as adolescence. This is what you did. And it's not because women didn't want to do these things. It's because they couldn't. It's like doing a hoe. It's like, yeah, women can do that. My grandmother picked cotton as a kid. And some of these things they could do. But the overwhelming majority of it, it's like, no, they couldn't. There's the reason why the girls are sitting in the back of a lot of these, and the guys are just doing it from sun up until sundown. Men, and more men. It's all that it is. Because they had to. They were forced to. There was no choice. And that's the problem with this. That she is framing this stupid, lying question as if there's a choice. There's no choice in it, in a lot of these jobs.
Okay, sure. But I want to put you that here in the UK, for example, let's take that as an example. The gender pay gap stands at just over 9%. You've got women at the BBC recently saying that the broadcaster is illegally paying them less than men to do this.
And I love it. She even says it. It's illegal. Then if it's illegal and they're doing something illegally, then take them to court. It's already against the law. What the hell are you talking about? Do not tell me this stuff. Do something about it, because I do not give a damn about your opinions or feelings. You show me the evidence or you shut the hell up. I'm getting so tired of this. It's so much of this conversations that we have today of my feelings. I don't give a damn about your feelings.
The same job. You've got only 7 women running the top FTSE 100 company.
And he tears this one apart, though. You know, the whole conversation from the beginning is wrong. None of this should be happening in the first place because it's all based off of a lie.
So it seems to a lot of women that they're still being dominated and excluded, to quote your words back to you.
It does seem that way, but multivariate analysis of the pay gap indicate that it doesn't exist.
Multivariable analysis. So in other words, there's a lot of different variables as to why men and women do what they want to do. So it's like you can take men and women who are doctors in their 40s, never been married, don't have children, and you will find that women who are, or we'll change one thing, we'll say that they're both married and they're both brain surgeons, that when their spouse makes as much money, that the man will, the husband of the female doctor, that husband will continue to work. Even though she's making enough as a brain surgeon to support the whole family, he doesn't have to work. He's like, screw that, I'm going to go work. And so they're both working full-time jobs. But whenever it's the opposite, same scenario, other than it's a guy who's a doctor and he's married to a woman who works, she will quit. She'll drop that left, right, and center. And she will stay at home and she'll raise the kids. And so what this also translates into is that she does all of these things around the house because that's her new job. And so she will cook, she will clean, she'll deal with the trash, she'll vacuum, do laundry, do dishes, take the kids to school and get them ready and help with homework and all this stuff. And so then whenever he comes home, he doesn't have to do any of these things. And so he can keep on top of the medical journals and the innovative, all the innovating new technology that's coming out and make adjustments to his career. But she can't. The female doctor can't because her husband is working. So they have to both come home and then split those responsibilities because they still have to get done. But now it falls on both of them, so she no longer has the time to do it. And this is where they get into playing these games because there's all these variables. And whenever you hear about well, men and women doctors, they're not getting paid the same. There's a pay gap here. It's because they're doing this. They're not counting in for all the variables. And so they'll say something stupid like, well, we looked at men and women doctors who are in their 40s who are single and they're not getting paid the same. And it's like, well, what's a lie about that? Every damn thing about that is a lie. Because what do you mean that they're in their 40s? Because there's a difference between a man who has never been married versus a woman who's been married, got divorced, but she took 10 to 15 years out to raise children. They're both in their 40s. Both of them are single, but that's wrong. One was never married and one is divorced. They're not the same. And what do you mean by doctors? So I don't know if I phrased it right. I usually do. What do you mean by doctors? Because there's a difference between pediatricians and brain surgeons. Guess which one gets paid more? Brain surgeons. Guess who goes into brain surgery versus pediatricians? Well, women do pediatrician work like mad, and men become brain surgeons. There's no police officers stopping these people from making these decisions. And looking at how much they make per year was the other one. And it's like, don't you mean how many hours that they work? Because it doesn't matter which job it is that you're doing. Men will come in and they will work more than 40 hours a week on average, where women will work less than 40 weeks per average. And it's because they don't take in enough variables. They'll take in and they'll cherry pick the ones that they want to be able to throw their point across. And then the other side will come in and be like, well, what about all the rest of these? Why are you ignoring these?
But that's just not true, is it? I mean, that's 9% pay gap. That's a gap between median hourly earnings between men and women.
But there's multiple reasons for that. One of them is gender, but it's not the only reason. Like if you're a social scientist worth your salt, you never do a univariate analysis. Like you say, well, women in the aggregate are paid less.
So here's an example. What is a univariable analysis? What is that? People don't know. And so whenever Jordan Peterson talks about this stuff, they don't. But they will still go around and they will spout this stuff like they know what the hell that they're talking about. It's like, no, you don't. You are speaking a platitude. And what is a platitude? A platitude means that it is a word or a phrase that has absolutely no meaning whatsoever, or maybe it did at one point in time, but it's lost its meaning. And that right now it means nothing. And that's what these insane leftists do all the time. And there are people out there on the far right, they do it too. But right now it's the left that has the attention of the media and of all these politicians. And it's just one lie after another because people don't know what the hell it is that they're talking about.
The men, okay, well, then we break it down by age, we break it down by occupation, we break it down by interest, we break it down by personality.
But you're saying basically it doesn't matter if women aren't getting to the top because that's what's skewing that gender pay gap, isn't it? You're saying, well, that's just a fact.
No, he didn't say that at all. And she does this constantly. She keeps putting her words into his mouth. He didn't say that at all. Where are you getting this from? He didn't say it anywhere. You're just making this up.
You're not necessarily going to get to the top.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't matter either.
You're saying
there are multiple reasons for it.
Yeah, those reasons, why should women put up with those reasons?
And you know why? Part of it is because whenever she does have guests from people on the right, they don't know what they're talking about either. It is a two-way street.
Why should women be content?
And that's the difference between having somebody who actually is a professional, who knows what they're talking about, versus some idiot who's just spewing this stuff out of nowhere. It's like, I definitely don't know everything either. Definitely. But what you should be doing with yourself, what I strongly, highly encourage, is that you do your due diligence and you find someone who is an actual professional who can back up their words that they're saying. And that's what he does. He's like, Jordan Peterson has been doing this for decades. He's not some kind of activist. He is trained. He has had clinical work from his practice that he's done for decades. He taught at Harvard. It's like, no, that's why I listen to him and not some random lunatic online. And so that's what, and one of the things that you can do too is that maybe there's someone perhaps a little bit like me, or maybe me, where I do the work of finding these people, kind of sum it all up, so then that way you don't have to do all this work. And so I can give a better example of this. There's this guy called Ty Lopez that I saw online, and one of the claims that he made, that he reads like, 50 or 100 books a week. And it's like, no, you don't. That doesn't make any sense at all. And I finally came across a video where he explained this, and he talked about how he goes to a book and he goes through just the highlighted sections and he skims through it. And so he'll look at, like, you know, if there's a special little paragraph like right here, he'll read that. If there's something in bold lettering, he'll do that. He'll read the titles to it. If there's these little pictures or diagrams or whatever, he'll read that. You know, he'll read this stuff up here in bold print, and he'll get the highlights of it. He will not read like all of this stuff of the credits. He will not read the preamble. He doesn't read the acknowledgments to it. He doesn't want to hear about the story of the author, you know, or the preamble or the foreword. See if I can find it. There it is right there. He doesn't read all that stuff. He skips all of it. And he admits, it's like, yeah, I don't get 100% of it, but I'll get 75 to 80% of what the meaning of the book is. And it goes, if I'm really diligent, maybe I can read one book a day from front to back, cover to cover, all of it. Or I can speed read it, skim through it. Yeah, I'm not going to get 100% of it, but I'm going to get the majority of it. But what that'll let me do is now I can do several books in one day. Which method is going to get me the most information? Which method? Doing one book at 100% a day, or doing 5 books a day at 75% information? Which one's going to keep you out in the lead? Which one's going to give you the most information? And especially if they're over the same subject, such as habit. So if you have like 5 books over habit, and you're just, or maybe 3 books, 3 to 5 books, and you get the highlights from all of them, holy crap, then at the end of that, you should have a really better understanding than you would just from one. Because you know what, this book's going to cover some things, and there's a good chance that another book is going to have quite a bit that's different. And if you find any that overlap with each other, that might be extremely important, and you want to take special note of it. And that's how we got through so many at the same time. And if you could find somebody like that online who's doing the same thing for you, it's like, yeah, how many people are there who deal with psychology and also with brain surgery, cancer, diet, health, nutrition, all this stuff? Is there anyone out there? That's what I'm trying to do, and that's what I'm building my channel off of right now. So then that way, that saves everybody else all the time. And that's what I'm going to build this website from, is that I want up-to-date, accurate information so that whatever it is that you're interested in, if you have this little spark that jumps into your head, it's like, I want to know more about this. I want you to be able to go to a place where it's like, there it is right there. And I know it's good, accurate, up-to-date information because there's checks and balances galore on this thing. And it's not filled with people's opinions. It's like, they're going to be there because there's plenty of stuff that we don't know about, but it's going to be labeled truthfully. It's like, we know this is facts because here's the proof and the evidence. And this is a hypothesis or a theory, and this is just flat out somebody's feelings because we don't know. This is part of the reason why life is so valuable because you don't know who the next Einstein's going to be. And you want to foster and nurture every single person to be the best that they can be, because who knows? Who knows where this next genius lies? This is why you don't want poor people to be left back, because a brilliant child can be born anywhere, anytime, from anyone. You could have that brilliant child. You could be that brilliant child of someone. And so let me express this a little bit with another one of Jordan Peterson's clip, and we'll come back to this one, but let me pull that up. So what this is Jordan Peterson, and he's at some college, university, I think over in England, and they're talking about climate change. And so this is Jordan Peterson on climate change is the name of the video, or the title of the video, and the YouTube channel is Professor Jordan Peterson Clips. And so this is, I'll have a link in the description below for it. And he's going to talk about one of the reasons why individual people is so important. And that's because you don't know where the next genius is going to be, because it doesn't matter about your group identity.
Lomberg's work. I really like Bjorn Lomberg. I think he's a real genius.
And so some kid asked some question about, is climate change going to unify people and bring everyone together? And he's like, no, absolutely not. And so this is, he explains it all throughout this clip. And so I'm not going to go into the first part of it because I just need the second part for what I'm talking about right now.
Yes, you can look him up if you want. He took the UN millennial goals. There's 200 of them. That's way too many goals if you're serious about goals, by the way, because 200 goals isn't a plan. It's a wish list.
And so I was talking about this before. So if you watch my previous video, I have these little schedules, organizers, planners, things that I had. And that was one of the things that I didn't like in this, was that in one of these, in one of these pages, it had you list 50 goals that you wanted to accomplish in your lifetime. And it's like that's not goal oriented at all. It's like, that's a wish list right here. It's like my dreams, write down 50 dreams in all areas of your life. It's like, no, that's a wish list. I was thinking about this a little bit more, and I think the better kind of way of looking at that is that over here on the other page, this is kind of set up like brainstorming. It's like, that would be more appropriate. It's like brainstorm like as many things as you want to, as what you want to get accomplished in your life, and then do what he talks about. Put it in order as to what's the most important to you, and then focus on those things. And one of the things that you can do to help focus those things is to, well, categorize them. What are you talking about? So it's like, well, what do you want with your health? What do you want with your business, with your relationships, with your intimate relationships? What about with your friends, your personal development, your spiritual, and your recreation? You know, so this should be brainstorming first, and then you put your brainstorming into well, kind of what he was talking about. So whenever I got this, I thought of this whenever he was doing this. So if you didn't watch that video, here's another reason to watch it.
You have to prioritize. I'm serious. You have to prioritize, but they won't prioritize because each of the goals has its constituents. And if you prioritize, then you irritate the constituents. But if you don't prioritize, then you can't implement the plan.
And this is the problem that's going on with science today and research, is that in order to get refunding for your college or research institution, you get a lot of that money from the government. And they're not going to give you funding if you're going against their political ideas that they've put themselves out on a pedestal. And so I've seen lectures about this stuff, that these colleges, for example, they will come out with this research and they'll say, oh, yes, this is why A, B, and C are so good. And it just happens to go along with this politician, and then they get funding for it. And then whenever somebody goes out and tries to do peer review over it, so another university tries to take this information and duplicate it, they can't do it. But if you don't do what the politicians want, then you don't get the funding for it. And that's part of the corruption and the problem that's going on with all this stuff. Is that they want to say, well, this is science. Don't you believe in science? It's like, yes, I do. But the work that they've done, it's not based off science at all. It's based off of funding. It's based off of money and corruption. It's not based off of good work. One of the things that they should do is that before you should be able to do any kind of these findings, is that it should be peer reviewed first before you're allowed to quote it. But they don't do that at all. And that is absolutely one of the things that I'm going to do. It will be one of the first things that I'm going to do. Is that part of the scam too, is that they have a bunch of journals that they only get sold to colleges and universities. And it's a big transfer of money. It's a money laundering scheme as far as I'm concerned. And so they'll have these like medical journals, science journals, research journals, and these publications that go out. And the universities will pay tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars for these subscriptions, and they'll have them in the libraries, in the classrooms, and all this stuff. But it's only for a handful. It's an insane amount of money. It'll be like $3,000 or $4,000 for that one copy of that stupid thing. It's ridiculous, and that's part of the way that they generate money. It's ridiculous. I don't know if I'll do a video about that. I guess at some point in time I will, but this is what he's talking about. And it's just because you have constituents, and the politicians have the same thing too. They have the same problem, is that there are all these people who have all this money, and if the politicians aren't saying what these rich people want to hear, then they're not going to donate to them. And so it's like, I don't care about any of this stuff. I do not care about these rich, delusional people and what they think. They're not scientists. It's just like right now with Will Smith going up and slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars. I don't care. I think it's 100% true. You know why? Because they're lunatics. They get away with stupid stuff all the damn time. You know why? Because whenever the cops get called out and comes to some kind of situation, they go, oh my goodness, it's Will Smith. Hey, can I take your picture? You know what? We're going to let you go. I've seen you. I kind of know you because they watched The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or Men in Black or whatever. They think they know the guy, and did some interview stuff or whatever. It's like, no. These people are selfish, entitled lunatics who don't have a damn clue what they're talking about. But, they've done these movies and they have all this money. It's like, yes, because you're a liar and a fraud. And the looks that they had on their face, it's like Chris Rock, who was like, what the hell just happened? Because you know why? He's not treated like that. That's not what happens, because the only time these people ever get in trouble is because they have some kind of party in the rich neighborhoods, and it's other rich people call on rich people, and so sometimes that'll happen. But with the rest of the time, it's like they'll go out to bars and clubs, they'll be out just in public, and they get away with all this stuff. And it's because everybody recognizes them, and they let them go, and they let them get away with this stupid stuff. You see it all the time too, where sometimes they don't. They've assaulted somebody and they do get arrested because that's carrying it a little bit a bridge too far. And that's exactly what Will Smith did. He didn't go up there and beat the crap out of him. He didn't even close his fist. He slapped him because he knows what the rich game is. He knows what that stupid moronic stuff is. And you know what? I don't give a damn. Let them do it to each other all night and day. It's like I have nothing in it. That's the way that they live. It's the same thing with this trans fight thing, where it's like they've got that guy who's swimming with the women because he wants to say that he's a female, and now he's breaking all these records. Whenever he was competing with the men, he was like in the 400 range. He was nothing. But now he's breaking records with the women, and all these people are upset about it. It's like, shut the hell up. You know what? If the women aren't doing anything about it, then why are you? You know what? Until they're willing to say something themselves, it's like, I don't give a damn. Let them all go rot, every last one of them. Why should I die on that hill for somebody who they're the ones who are actually in the middle of it? If they don't care, it's like, then neither do I. Whenever they're willing to take up their fight, then I'll support them too. But they have to do it first, because there's a billion problems going on. And it's like, I'm going to focus on something that people actually give a damn. And it's like, whenever the swimmer themselves don't even give a damn, it's like, it's a waste of time.
So what Lombard did was gather teams of economists, multiple teams, some of whom were Nobel Prize-winning economists. He had them assemble teams. He had them rank order development goals in terms of the return on investment, all of the teams. Then he averaged across the teams and came up with a final list. And addressing global warming wasn't even on the list. The most fundamental, he wrote a book called How to Spend $75 Billion to Make the World a Better Place, and that's not very much money on a global scale. Almost everything that he recommended had to do with increased child nutrition in developing countries. It's like, these things are complicated, man.
Because it has nothing to do with black or white. Because if you're just a better person just because you're black, then these third world nations like in Africa, why don't they have all these geniuses? Because it has absolutely nothing to do with your skin color at all whatsoever. But they're perfectly capable of being smart people, and he'll talk about this here in just a second.
These are complicated. It's like, well, let's fix global warming. It's like, okay, well, good luck with that. First of all, how are you going to do that? And to think that will unite us, certainly not uniting us so far. So, no. And it's the kind of low-resolution thinking that just gets us absolutely nowhere. I like what Lombard did way better. I think it's way more intelligent. So, maybe if you increase child nutrition enough and you produce another, 10 million geniuses as a consequence of that, and maybe one of them will figure out what to do about global warming. But I'm serious about that, It's not a bad thing to increase the total sum of human brain power, And so we treat these things so lightly. Well, let's fix the planet. Well, we're going to concentrate on global warming. Well, why global warming? Well, because everyone thinks that's the biggest catastrophe. Well, maybe it is, but if you don't have a solution, Well, and then what about all those other problems? What are you going to do about them? Well, we'll ignore them because we can feel good about, being concerned about global warming. It's like, one of the reasons there's more trees in the Northern Hemisphere than there were 100 years ago. No one knows that, but it's true, and by a substantial margin. You know why? In part, because people burn coal instead of wood.
Oh, it just frustrates me like mad, because this is all we hear about. All these lies with climate change. It's not to say that there's not. And so one of the things that he talks about here at the very beginning, there's a stupid little brat, is that here's the problem with climate change and all the models and why so much of it is garbage.
I mean, there's a couple of reasons. I mean, the first reason is that I spent a lot of time reading. I worked for a UN committee for 2 years on sustainable economic and ecological development and read a very large amount during that period of time and learned a lot, much of which made me much more optimistic than I had been before I read the relevant literature, which was the worst things about the whole mess is. So as you project outwards with regards to your climate change projections, which are quite unreliable to begin with, and the unreliability of the measurement magnifies as you move forward in time, obviously, because the errors accumulate. And so if you go out 50 years, the error bars around the projections are already so wide that we won't be able to measure the positive or negative effects of anything we do right now. So how in the world are you going to solve a problem when you can't even measure the consequence of your actions?
So in a little bit more layman terms, is what he's saying is that we can't predict the weather. So for example, we don't know what kind of weather we're going to have next month. How much rain are you going to get next month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months? How many tornadoes, hurricanes, how severe are they going to be? We cannot predict the weather. So how can we do climate change? So we have an error to that. And the further out into the future that we go, the worse it gets, because we already started with error to it. And because we had that error, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger the further that you go out. And so by the time that you get to 50 years, it's more than blown it away that we don't know if anything had any effect because it's just so inaccurate. So that's why you can't do anything with climate change, because who the hell predicts Mother Nature? How many volcanic eruptions are we going to have? Because that's going to affect the weather. How many typhoons are we going to have? Where are we going to have flooding and how bad is it going to be? And then where we have dikes and levees, how many of those are going to fail? Because that's going to have an impact too. How are you going to predict all these things that happen all around the world? It's like, you can't. And it's like, I don't want to waste my time with stupid crap. This is stupid. You know why? Because we can't do anything about it. Well, what can we do? Well, we can help people who are in poverty, people who aren't getting a good education, people who aren't getting enough food. And you know how you do that? You have to help individual people. And it's got to be real. And one of the things is that you don't send them food, because then you destroy their local economy on agriculture. They have to be able to produce their own food, which means you have to send them tools and equipment. And then you have to educate them so they can do their own farming. So then they can have food right there. Because guess what's cheaper? It's cheaper to get food locally than have it flown halfway across the world. And so if you see any of these, it's why I don't give to these charities at all. It's one of many reasons why I don't give to charities, because they don't do this stuff. They send food. It's like, no, don't send food. You have to get them off their butts, and they have to learn how to do their own food. And that's why in like South America, in Zimbabwe, they got rid of all these white farmers because they said, because they're oppressing us. And you know what happened? They're starving to death now. You know why? Because it just doesn't magically happen. You don't wave a wand and crops grow. Now they're trying to get them back. In Zimbabwe, they're trying to bring them back because they're having problems with food. Go imagine that. You know what the answer should have been? The answer should have been is that we want to help everybody be successful. So we need to educate everybody so that if they want to work hard and they want to do this stuff, here's a track that you can do. So if you want to do it, you can. Because guess what? Africa's like every other country. It's huge. Or continent. It's huge. And it's got all of this land. So guess what? Why not farm it? It's just ridiculous. It's just one damn lie after another. I get so frustrated watching all this stuff. And it's like, I don't understand. I don't understand if I'm just like smart and everyone's just so stupid, because I'm not talking about you people who are watching. Not at all. Because I was in that same situation that you're in right now. Whenever you're watching this stuff, you're probably going, oh, I never heard it like this. I'm frustrated at all these people, and this includes Jordan Peterson. Because it's like, why aren't you phrasing this properly? Because he's doing this interview with Kathy Newman, and it's like, right off the get-go, the conversation is wrong. So let's go back to that.
I'm not saying that they should, I'm saying that the claim that the wage gap between men and women is only due to sex is wrong. And it is wrong. There's no doubt about that. The multivariate analysis have been done. So I can give you an example.
Multivariate analysis. I'm saying that 9% pay gap exists.
Yeah.
That's a gap between men and women. I'm not saying why it exists, but it exists. Now,
Yeah,
if you're a woman, that seems pretty unfair.
That is so stupid. I'm not saying why it exists. It's like you have to ask why. It's so stupid that this whole conversation is stupid. And I'm telling you right now, though, even though Jordan Peterson is not correct with a lot of this stuff, he does get a lot of it right. And it's like the overwhelming majority of this stupid conversation comes from this stupid woman and this stupid network, the BBC, the British Broadcasting Communication, they're over there in Britain. I don't want to watch any of it. I just wasted my life watching this stuff. It's like I want a place where I don't have to listen to all these wrong answers and all these wrong questions where it's all wrong. Everything is wrong. I'm so tired of it.
You have to say why it exists.
But do you agree that it's unfair? If you're a woman...
Not necessarily.
I got to pause right there.
Yeah.
Do you feel that it's unfair?
And see, and this is one of the things that I like with watching reaction videos, is because I want to understand where everyone else is coming from with this stuff. And they answer this question incorrectly, but it's not their fault. It's absolutely not their fault, because the question is wrong, and that makes a lot of these answers wrong. Even though Jordan Peterson's really good with his answers, the answers in part are wrong because the damn question was wrong.
For women to get paid less, and because of gender reasons, or
now are we talking about the same?
And so whenever I heard this discussion between the two, it's like, you can't do that, because even whenever it's the same job, it's not. So for example, I have a lot of friends and family who are nurses and nurse practitioners, and they all have the same story repeatedly. And that is, whenever they have to move somebody who's injured or sick or old, they always call in the men to come in there and do it because they're stronger, because obviously they are. That's why men outperform women constantly in the Olympics, and all these other sports. It has absolutely nothing to do with right or wrong. It's just the way that we are physically built. And so the men get called in there to do all this stuff, to get them out, to get the patients out of the bed, out of the wheelchairs, out of just chairs, whether if they're sick, they're injured, they're old, whatever. And you know what? They do more because of it. They're asked to do more. And instead of just saying, bring in some equipment, because they do have equipment, it takes time, and the guy just says, sure, I'll do it. But that takes a toll in your body. Your body does not stay young and healthy. I'm old. My body is disintegrating. It's not very fast, fortunately, but it's not the same that it was in its 20s. And it's like, do you think I should get compensated for that? I'm over there doing more than she is. It's like, yeah, she's a nurse, but so am I, but I'm doing more than she is. How the hell is that fair? Why the hell should I be screwed over? Because it's with all aspects of my life. Whenever men go home and they play with their children, they do rough and tumble play. You know why? Because women can't. So here's a personal example, is that I can take little kids who come up to like my knee. They're like 1 or 2 years old, and I can launch those little snot bags into the air. And they have a blast. They laugh and they giggle. But women can't do it at all because they're weak. Not to do with right or wrong. Women would love to do it, and if they could, they would. But I can launch those kids up so high that I can bring my arms down to my side, and I can yell at them, come back down here. So here's the way that it goes. Whenever I really like a kid, because I like their friend, I like their parents. I'm close to their parents. We're all friends and all that stuff. I'll play with their kids. I will not do this to every kid, because especially whenever you do it around other kids, all those little snot bags will come on up and say, do me, and it's like, oh my God, because it's not like you can only do it so many times you get tired. And so the way that it goes is that you take the little kid and you like, hey, would you like a flying lesson? Have you ever flown before? You get them interested in it. And it's real fun. And you can only do it while they're little. And whenever they get older, they get discouraged. It's like, yeah, you're growing up, you're too heavy, you know. Because one of the things that happens is that little kids are real easy to throw because they don't have muscles. And I tell you what, you notice that. Whenever you start picking them up and they've got muscles, you notice this big weight difference, because they haven't grown very much, but damn, they're heavy. That's because little babies, they just crawl, and whenever they first start walking, you know, and they're just shaking around because they don't have muscles yet. But whenever they start developing muscles, they start running around all over the place, and they've got all this energy to go along with it, and it's like, oh, they're getting heavy. But whenever they're still small and they're just learning how to walk, that's the best time. And you tell them, hey, have you ever flown before? You know, Superboy or Supergirl or whatever, you know? It's like, yeah, you know, everyone knows Superman, there's Superboy and Supergirl. It's like, well, I bet you haven't had flying lessons yet. Let's do flying lessons first. And kids, they'll just trust everyone, especially if you know their parents and stuff, you know, and say, okay, there are some rules. There are 2 rules that the kid has to do and 2 rules that you have to do as an adult. As an adult, I don't ever say this one because I'm the adult and I know what they are. One is that you have to be clear around you, especially behind you, because you're not going to be able to shoot that kid straight up. The kid's going to go forward or backward just a little bit, and it's just like a step or half a step forward or backward. It's no big deal. And the other thing is that you cannot go like this, because this is a curve. I know it's hard to see. Instead, you have to have them close to your body, and you have to bring them up, because you want to shoot them straight up. If you have your arms extended and you go out like that, then they're just going to keep going. They're going to go back like this, and they're going to keep going backwards. And so that's hard. That's another reason why women can't do this. And so, but you're still going to probably go back a step or 2. So and then the other thing is, obviously, you can't be, I couldn't do it inside here. This is an 8-foot ceiling. They're going to slam into that thing. Because I can throw them up so high that they go up like 10 feet into the air. And I can be like, come back down here. I didn't say, I'll just play through it. All right, so there are 2 things that you have to do. One is that you have to be straight like a board. And that's because you are not going to kick me in my face. So you need to be straight. I don't want to be punched or kicked. Do not punch or kick me. Be straight. And the second thing is, you need to have your arms out a little bit, because I cannot grab you by your arms. Your arms are weak and wiggly and stuff, and that'll hurt. But your ribs, I can grab you by your ribs. Your ribs are real strong. So that's where I need to be able to grab you from. And so I'll grab them by their side, underneath their armpits, and I'll pick them up, and I start off real easy, real light, and I tell them that. And so we're going to start off real easy. I just toss them right here about eye level, you know, go up just a little bit higher and higher and higher, and they start laughing and giggling. They have a lot of fun, and then I start really chunking them, and then I start talking to them. I'm talking to them the whole time, and it's like, what are you doing? Oh, no, you're not supposed to be going that high. How don't you listen to me? You come back down here. I can throw them up so high. Come back. I'll go, Will, come back down here, and then I'll get them. And they're just laughing and balling off. It's like, that's it, you're cool. I told you not to go that high. That's enough of the flying lesson today. And it's just hilarious. And they all remember it. Little boys, little girls, that gets ingrained in their head for life. Because it's like, I'm so old now that with the first kids that I did that for, they now have kids of their own. And it's like they just never forget that. Because, I mean, how many people do that at all? It's like never. And so, you know, it's... Gotta get some water. And so men do this constantly through their entire lives with everything, every time, everywhere. It's like by the time I was in junior high, I was opening up jars for my mom. In junior high, I was already stronger than she was because she couldn't open up jars. Because men and women are not the same. And men are constantly asked to do this all the time, everywhere. Even to this day, I have women and children, and they will be random strangers who will ask me to do stuff. And I just do it. You know why? Because that's what you have to do as a man. Because they're incapable of doing it. And it's like, yes, of course I'll do it. I understand it. And I'm not an a-hole. But do you think maybe I should be compensated a little bit for this, especially whenever it's related to work? Are you out of your damn mind? And this is exactly what Jordan Peterson is talking about, that there are all these variables because men and women are not equal. And it's not one damn thing with wrong or right. It's just the way that it is. And it's beautiful that women are women, and it's beautiful that men are men, and children are children, and seniors are seniors. It's all beautiful. And if you don't see that, then there's something wrong with you for not seeing beauty in the world. It's just nature, and it's all beautiful. And screw these nasty, ugly people who want to say that you're ugly because you're black, white, straight, gay, whatever. Screw every last one of those pathetic, lying pieces of trash. And so, you know, it's like that's why this was such a good conversation for me to watch with these people, because these people, they're just so nice, and they're having an honest conversation that they're not, they're just giving their honest opinion. It doesn't matter one way or another. They don't have the constituents, that there aren't people with loads of money who are paying them that they have to worry about with their answers with this stuff. They can say whatever they want to.
Is she? Or two different positions? Because if we're two different positions, that's clearly going to be two different things.
But they're good people because, you know, they're addressing it from the platitude side of kind of the meaningless side, and they've got really good answers for it. But the question is wrong. So in a way, it really doesn't mean anything what they say. But it does show on their character that they themselves have good intentions. I like these. From what I've seen from these people so far, they seem real good.
Will
You say background, same thing.
But do you agree that?
And like I say, it has nothing to do with the male and female part of it. That's a good point that you made. Right on.
So let's go on with the. That's cheese.
But do you agree that it's unfair? If you're a woman,
Not necessarily.
and on average you're getting paid 9% less than a man, that's not fair, is it?
It depends on where it's happening.
Right.
I can give you an example. Okay. There's a personality trait known as agreeableness. Agreeable people are compassionate and polite.
Mm-hmm.
And agreeable people get paid less than less agreeable people for the same job. Mm-hmm. Women are more agreeable than men.
Again, a vast generalization. Some women are more agreeable than
yes,
men.
that's true, but that's right. And some women get paid more than men.
And what that translates into is that the market is not controlled by men. The market is controlled by competence because there's competition. And if you want your business to do well, you have to perform well. And so you have to go out there and you have to do the work. And a lot of times that means that you have to stand up for yourself. You have to stand up for your company. It's like one of the big reasons why 80% of the managers fail out there is because they don't know how to manage their employees. Because in order to tell them no and to get good work out of them, you have to say no. You have to say, no, you are bad. You are not doing your work. You're coming to work late. You take too much time off. You cannot use the phone to make personal phone calls. You are here to do our job. And whenever you screw that up, you're screwing it up for everybody. Guess who that falls in line with? Does that fall in line more with men or with women? It has absolutely nothing to do with men saying, well, you have to be firm and strict with it. No, it has to do with competence because that's the job.
Right.
Do you think that by and large, women are too agreeable to get the pay rises they deserve?
I'm saying that that's one component
Why does she keep making it seem like this is what he's saying?
Because
she wants him to say.
She's upset.
No, I see she's upset.
highly upset. So that's why she's doing. That's why she's acting like that.
But it's like she's throwing the answer on him.
Oh yeah, she's ticked. She's mad.
That's what women do.
A lot of us. I'm not gonna say all of us,
But part of the problem, though, I will give her a little bit of slack, is that most of the guests that she has on are going to be like her. They're filled with a bunch of platitudes. They don't know what it is that they're talking about. And this is just, she has it all in step order. And she knows when I say this, then they're going to say this. And then I say this in return, then they're going to say that. And then I'm going to say this. And that's what she's used to. And it's because if you've watched Jordan Peterson, this guy is unlike any other person out there. And that's obvious, because that's why he's got all of these freaking followers out there and all these people who have been changed by him, because he actually knows something.
a lot of us. I'm not gonna say 90%. I'm gonna just.
And then this was another thing too, is that I am so sick and tired of people talking in absolutes. It's like, no, whenever people have conversations, they are talking about statistically. Statistically, this is what the majority of women are. This is what the majority of men are, or whatever kind of group is that, you know, like women, they with childbirth, and they have to grow up and be mature quicker than what men do because they have their biological clock. You know, we've already kind of gone over that whole.
I'm gonna say a lot of us.
Multivariate equation that predicts salary.
Oh my goodness, it's like an hour and 20 minutes. I didn't realize it was so long. I'm sorry, but I watch videos all the time and I gather this information, and it's just one piss off moment after another. And I just can't sit here just watching videos and commenting on it. It is what I need to do, but it's so unorganized right now, and that's what this is with putting out my plans and my goals in a planner, scheduling it all out and breaking down my goals, because it's like I'm getting there, and it's like all the time it's getting better and better and better, and it's like I want to pound this into oblivion. You don't understand the anger and frustration that I have with all of this lying that's going on from the politicians and the media and the celebrities. It's like I do not give two damns about any one of these celebrities, and it's because I don't want to invest the time into figuring out which celebrity's right or wrong. It's useless. It's pointless. They're not politicians. They're not in my lives. I don't know. I don't care. It's not going to do one damn thing for me. And with the politicians and political stuff that's going on, it's just so corrupt because they just go off and do whatever they want to because the checks and balances are so weak. And it's like, I've got it. I tell you what, I just got it left, right, and center. I've been lied to for my whole life with so many things, and I'm fed up with it. It has driven me wildly for decades, and because of the internet, fortunately, with all the information out there, I was able to find people like Jordan Peterson, able to organize my thoughts and also be able to deal with some of the stress and trauma that led me up to that life, to be able to put that in my past and be able to move forward because I have a clearer picture of who I am and what went on with my past, how to deal with it and cope with it, leave it in the past, and just all that other stuff. And it's like, here we are now, because I'm telling you, I'm going to get every last bit of it. That there's one thing that I want in my life more than anything. I have never had such a clear, more confident vision and goal in my life where I've never felt so certain about anything before ever than this. There is nothing that's going to stop me. I can't do it alone either. I absolutely need your help, of every last one of you who are watching. And right now, just give the video a like and a thumbs up and subscribe. That's good enough for now. I'll have Patreon and Subscribestar or something, all that stuff probably. At some point in time, I technically have it now, but I haven't engaged in it just yet. And check in on me, see what's going on, because it's only going to get better, and it's going to get formatted onto a website, and it's going to be so good. Because I'm going to destroy all these lies, every last one of them. And I got like 100 more big serious things with millions of little things to go in with it. It's going to be really good. You are seeing the beginning of something big happening right now, right before your eyes. And so it's just a grind, and part of it is just me dealing with it. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I got to stop. It's long enough. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later. Bye.